Welcome to the last part of Rising. And we jump immediately in with Teyla waking up on the Wraith ship. Sumner asks her what should they expect, but of course she doesn't know because no one's ever come back from being captured by the Wraith. Before he could accuse her of stuff, the Wraith show up in this very dramatic scene that you'll recognize from the intro. And the first victim they take is, of course, the guy without a name. I mean, look, the writing is pretty awesome, but sometimes you just need a red shirt to be a red shirt. As they depart, Teyla says they have no need to explain themselves, which, yeah, obviously. And then we get our very first look at a space gate, and Rodney's being like, well, there goes that Malpin. Yeah, I feel ya. It's one of those things I often find in series is a lot of series don't work with the idea of limited resources. Like, if you break one thing, there's always a new thing. But Atlantis is at this point confronted with limited resources. That's a Malp. It's gone. Rodney is correct in being unhappy about it. And of course, everyone else is disheartened, not because of the Malp, but because they can't possibly go to a planet with a space gate, because up to now, everyone's been walking through the gates, except for Thread the Needle. But anyway, Rodney has a bit of a plan, and he shows John the puddle jumpers. And he asks him, can you fly it? And John says, let's find out. And I think this is the first conversation these two guys have. And give me a moment. Feline-related interruption. Sorry about that. Meanwhile, Carson gives us some explanation on what the Wraith are. They are incredibly resilient. They can heal. They don't have the regular. They don't die of old age. So it's a hard creature to kill, and it's kind of unsettling how very excited Carson is with his amputated Wraith hand. Back in the jumper bay, John shows that he has figured out not only how to pilot the jumper, but also how to make them invisible. Elizabeth, however, is still kind of hesitant to send him out there, but John tells her this is why she brought him here, which is a lie, actually. The reason she brought him to the Pegasus Galaxy was because he has an affinity with the ancient tech, which is concentrated on Atlantis. Him going off on a reckless puddle jumper mission is not why she brought him here. Anyway, I suppose it's a go because there he goes. And then we have this cute little scene just with Rodney. I guess he's giving a little bit of exposition for us. But he's complaining all the while. And I love how this implies, again, that Elizabeth and Rodney have a relationship that's older than what we've seen by now. Because she really just looks at him and he stops complaining. Like, this is something that people who know one another, that's how they operate. Ford joins John on the jumper, and they have a little discussion about naming the vehicle. Ford thinks the logical name is Gateship, which is fine, I guess, but John insists on renaming it the Puddle Jumper, also telling Ford he never gets to name anything again. And I guess John won because it's the Puddle Jumper, they're puddle jumpers. And yes, the scene where the puddle jumper descends from the ceiling and then goes through the gate, it's pretty impressive. Also, this is Elizabeth's face as she watches them go, and I really, really get the feeling she isn't very good at allowing people to go off on missions where they are possibly going to get hurt. We get to see the heads-up display, the HUD, and how there's a mental component to the ancient technology. They also discover that a life science detector, as Ford wants to name it later, and it's around this time we realize why he is not allowed to name anything anymore, for reasons. Back on the Wraith ship, the second person taken by the Wraith is Sumner. Meanwhile, the little puddle jumper has found the Wraith ship, although admittedly at this point it looks more like a Wraith city or something. Feline-related technical difficulties. Anyway, on the Wraith ship, Sumner gets to see firsthand why the Athosians are so terrified. And I have to admit, the first time I watched this, I was, Stargate is always a sci-fi adventure. This is not it. This is horror movie. This is really dark horror movie. I mean, look at this. This is horror. This isn't sci-fi adventure. Sci-fi adventure is a glowing hand, and then you get the idea that someone has been killed. It's not this. This is horror. Okay? This is horror. This isn't sci-fi adventure anymore. John and Ford walk into the ship, with Ford even mentioning that there aren't many guards around, which is something we'll get to in later episodes. Also, note that Ford is planting C4, which is the Stargate go-to problem-solving method. If you don't know what it is, blow it up with C4. And as they continue on, using the little life science detector, which never gets renamed, so I have no other name for it, they find Teyla, Holling, and Bates, and some more red shirts, although they don't die, so do they count as red shirts? Like, at least slightly pink? I don't know. Anyway, this is the moment, this is Sumner's look on his face, the moment he realizes the Wraith eat people. Yeah, it's still horror territory. This isn't returning to sci-fi adventure anytime soon. Honestly, as I was going through this frame by frame, this is the first time I've really noticed how much the Queen's profile has been flattened into this reptilian-looking monstrosity. Like, really, we have left sci-fi adventure so far behind us. Anyway, Sumner gets mind-controlled, and this, of course, is the second reason to be for the series. Sumner, although he tries to resist, does inform the Wraith Queen, this specific one, but they're all connected anyway, that there is another galaxy out there with billions of people in it, especially Earth, but also the rest of the Milky Way galaxy. And because the Wraith have overhunted their territories, the Pegasus galaxy, they are hell-bent now on finding the Milky Way galaxy and Earth. It's a rich feeding ground. And I have to say, I know Sumner isn't the best liked person around here, but despite that, he is a good man and is a good soldier up to the very end. When he realizes the Wraith isn't going to show any mercy, he tells her they're done talking. This guy knows his Wraith food, but he will not kneel and he will not bend. In any other series, this would have been the main character. He would have been the perfect military leader. But he's the wrong leader in the wrong series, or the wrong... He doesn't make it. And then, even when he realizes he's about to be fed on, he just tells the Queen to go to hell, which is kind of weird, because she says Earth first, which she got the Earth part from him, but she would not have gotten hell from him, although maybe through the link she has an idea what the expression means, even if she has no theological basis for heaven and hell, a theological cultural basis for it. But anyway, I'll let that slide. Can have a little bit of an explanation. Anyway, John finds Sumner. Mind you, he only finds Sumner because he followed the screams. And unfortunately, he's on a too high level to really help. And although he shoots the Wraith Queen and the guards, we are shown in very horror movie fashion how the bullet wounds just close up almost immediately. Also, by this time, this is what Sumner looks like. Like, he is indeed Wraith food. And then we get to see a close-up, and you can see him wordlessly begging John to kill him, which John does. And this is dark. This is a heavy thing. This isn't easy for John, and putting someone out of their mercy is a terrible thing to have to do. It is something that John did at the silent request of Sumner. And any story any worse written story would have just left it at that. But John is distraught by it all throughout. Like, even right after, you can see it was a big thing. The story never makes light of this moment, of the moment where John had to kill a fellow soldier, not by accident, but purposefully, to save him from torture, from an inevitable torturous death. Anyway, the Wraith Queen finds John and interrogates him, but she also finds this little Medudad. I'm going to have to give it a name. The detector. She finds the detector on him and immediately recognizes it as ancient technology. And from him, from Sumner, she knows they aren't the ancients. So she is very interested in it. But before we can get much further, Ford finds John, shoots the Queen, and they start blowing up the ship. Shoots the Queen some more, but as Carson said, they're hard to kill, and as we have seen, the bullet wounds just close. I would also like to draw your attention to the fact that we get to see a lot of blood in this movie. In this episode, in this series. So anyway, they shoot the Queen, the prisoners break free, and then John impales the Queen. And there's blood. Like, these days, you're not allowed to show blood anymore. Not even in violence-based or action-based movies. You're not allowed to show blood. But here you have blood, and you get to see the corpses. And I like horrors, but I don't like slashers because I don't like the excessive gore and torture. But if you're showing death, you need to show death as something with weight. Else, if dying isn't a weighty thing in this universe, if dying isn't messy and dirty and painful and horrible, then surviving isn't worth all that much. Like, you need to have the balance. And this series really, really does show how heavy death is. And remember I said that John didn't take shooting Sumner lightly. Like, this was his first immediately after. Death, violence, the fate of the earth. First the fate of the Atlanteans, but then later the fate of the earth. It's something You can believe that these people are horrified at the idea of the Wraith finding Earth, because anything else is no, that's not correct. You can believe it's a horrific thing because you can see the gore, you can see the alternative, you can see what will happen if they find Earth. Anyway, the Wraith Queen, before she dies, she tells John that she and her crew are just the keepers, and once they die, the rest of the Wraith will awaken. Sorry, I was lost there for a moment. Anyway, I would also like to point out at this point that this is the exact thing Elizabeth didn't want to happen when she was having her discussion with John on the balcony. And this is very important, this didn't happen because John was irresponsible or wrong, or because Elizabeth was irresponsible or wrong, or Ford, or anyone. The plot forced them into this situation. At every point, Ford, John, Sumner, everyone, they made the correct decisions. Not even the best decisions, the only good decision available to them. But the plot still forced them into this situation where they woke the rest of the Wraith. In fact, it can be argued that the moment they set foot through the gate from Earth, this outcome had been inevitable. Like, everything happened not because they did something wrong, but because this is what was going to happen regardless. And I get very irritated when movies have smart people and they have to act dumb for the plot to happen. Like, these people are shown to be competent, they are shown to be good, they are shown to be intelligent, and yet the plot still managed to force them into a corner. And this is good writing. Anyway, back on Atlantis, Rodney is having a moment. He is excited about, they managed to connect the Nakada generators, and it's supplying enough energy for large parts of the city. But as he's explaining it, he finds Elizabeth just staring at the gate, and his smile fades. And this is the moment where it's so obvious they have a relationship. Like, they've been working together for a while and they mutually respect one another. Because she tells him that she should have never let them go, as in the rescue mission, Ford and John. And by doing this, she is she's trusting Rodney with a decision, with a doubt, actually, that could ruin her entire standing here on Atlantis. Like, if she had that conversation with John in private because she knows if she shows any doubt, she will be compromised. And here she is willing to show her fears and her doubts to only Rodney, which is a massive show of respect and trust. And for his sake, he respects her enough to tell her to actually get out of his head, because he is always just Rodney. He's not a very empathetic person, and yet he recognizes the weight of what Elizabeth told him, and he tells her that you did the correct thing. And it's also for the sake of us as the audience. Like, we don't see everything happening on the Wraith planet anymore, but along with Elizabeth, we can say that going there had been the wrong thing. I mean, yes, it had been the correct thing, but it also been the wrong thing because now the Wraith are awake. So with Elizabeth, we can say going there had been the wrong thing. And then we immediately realize, but it had been the right thing to do. The jumper crew they should have gone there. So as Rodney's telling Elizabeth, she did the right thing. We, as the audience, are also hearing or realizing that it was the right thing. It's just, it's a heavy moment, and this is, again, this is good writing. This is why I like this series. It doesn't undermine intense moments with silly jokes. It allows moments to be heavy. It allows everything around it to be heavy, and everything works together towards one single revelation. Everything at this point is working towards whether the jumper crew will return with the prisoners. Anyway, back on the planet, the Wraith are pretty annoyed at, one, their ship being blown up, and two, the humans escaping. We get to see Teyla as a really good fighter. She just takes Ford's weapon away from him. She also saves Ford's life from being beamed up again. And I will get to this later, but the series has a Ford problem. And it's not even as if he's a bad character. Like, he was able to save John because he showed the same kind of flexibility of thought that John did. John told him, stay here, and Ford said, nah, I have bigger fish to fry, which makes him more like a student, an acolyte of John than an acolyte of Sumner, which is weird because earlier you kind of got that scene where it's supposed to look as if Ford was acknowledging or agreeing with Sumner that John is a problem. But not only did he disregard John, his direct superior's order, he also showed initiative by following his footprints, which is the only human footprints on the ship. So I think this character had potential, but I don't know. I still feel like it's a placeholder, and I think I'm going to do an entire thing on this, just a little ramble later on how Ford just didn't work. The rest of the plot, the rest of the series, the rest of the character, it's great, but Ford is, I think, the low part in all of it. I'm sorry. Anyway, the jumper makes it to the gate. It's gone invisible again, but now they have a problem. Like, they have to approach the gate at some point. The moment they dial the gate, the Wraith can just shoot blindly, and they will be able to shoot down the jumper, even if it's invisible, because, I mean, it has nowhere else to go. In a desperate attempt, John decloaks and tries to draw the darts away so that he can come around and try again. In fact, he tells Ford to be ready, and Ford's so very excited about it. He's like, he leans over and he's so very into the moment to dial the gate when needed. And as they approach, John thinks about a way to defend, and yay, squiddies, they're back. I love my squiddies. I love these little drones. They are so cute. But they're not supposed to be cute. They're supposed to be scary, but look at them. It's a squid. It's so cute. It's a light squid. I love them. Anyway, back on Atlantis, they see that there's an IDC. It's Ford's IDC, and Elizabeth tells them to drop the shield, and unfortunately, by now, because the shield's dropped, the Atlantis gate room is taking some fire. Elizabeth, however, insists on giving the jumper and the people on board some more time, even if the rest of them might prefer to raise the shield. And the puddle jumper retracts its drives and races through the gate. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty fantastic. I know this is all, or a large part of this is CGI, but it's still pretty cool. And then they make it, and the shield is reactivated, and these two darts, you can hear them get smashed into the gate. And everyone's relieved. And on the jumper, John is making a little bit of a an announcement, welcome ladies and gentlemen to Atlantis, and it occurred to me that this is probably the first time, or might be the first time, that Teyla and Harling hear that they are on Atlantis, on the city of the ancestors they worship. So this is a big deal for them, but okay, and then the episode ends where they have a little party, and Elizabeth tells John that he needs to think of who he wants on his team because he's now the ranking military officer. And apparently she's gotten over her fear of sending them out because she tells them that they should probably start doing the thing they came here for, which is to investigate, to find technologies. However, and this is just solid writing and characterization. Even though John is pretty much given a lot of leeway, he is given, he is in a leadership position now. He's given everything he could have ever wanted, if this had been his dream. But he still looks glum because well, he looks glum, and without having to ask what it is, Elizabeth knows to tell him that she knows he had to kill Sumner. Like, he did the right thing. The same way Rodney told her that the terrible, difficult thing she did, John also did the terrible but correct thing. There was no other choice. Anyway, Teyla tells John, well, she also agrees, and she tells John that he has made friends of her and all the Athosians, and with her help, they will make many more friends, and she gives him the Athosian greeting, which is pretty cute. And yeah, that's it. I mean, there's a little bit of talking, but it's basically that's it. And the series was beautiful and perfect, and I loved it. Or the first episode, the double episode, was perfect. I loved it, except for Ford. It was pretty great. Everything was solid. Everything worked towards the single goal, and I hope other people can love it half as much as I do. And anyway, on that note, like, subscribe, comment, share, you know the drill, and see you next time.